welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be doing another tier ranking video. I've already done a bunch of them, so I'll link them down below. You can check them out. I have a playlist. But this video I'm going to be tier ranking all of the, well, not all of them, but most of the childhood book series that I read growing up. I was born in 2008, so that was like late 2000s, but I wasn't really reading, I was mostly reading books that had been released previous to that, and I read a lot of books in my childhood. Like every day I was reading, and this is nowhere, like these like 26, 27 series are nowhere near the amount that I read. I just couldn't remember all of them, and I didn't want the video to be too long, so these are just the series, and these are not even the individual books, so I might do another video for that. But if you guys have any other recommendations or anything that I missed, just let me know and I could do a part 2. So my 5 tiers are: number 1, a 5 stars always. That's the top tier, meaning that if I read it right now, it's still a 5 stars. It always will be. It's like it holds up so good. Then nostalgic, meaning that like it probably wouldn't be a 5 stars if I read it like new, like if I had forgotten it and then read it again, but it's like the nostalgia factor just like makes it super good. Then I have holds up, meaning it holds up, it's good, it'd probably be a solid read right now. Like it's not like the best one of my childhood, it's not like a core memory, but it holds up. Would not enjoy now, meaning that if I read it right now, I probably wouldn't enjoy it. I don't understand why I enjoyed it before, but I did read it. And the last one is wish I could erase. Just a disclaimer, I know that none of the books are going to go into this tier, but I needed a last tier. I just can't imagine putting any of the books from my childhood into the last tier, just because I don't wish I could erase any of them. I'm already saying it right now, but the other four tiers will be filled. So let's start. So we're starting off strong. First we have Cam Jansen. This is, if you didn't ever read this in your childhood, it's like an amazing mystery series where Cam like has a photographic memory. I literally wanted to be her. Like she could like look at anything and then remember it. Honestly, now that I think about it, it seems pretty unrealistic, but like she was like amazing, and it was such a good mystery series, and there were so many books. So I'm gonna put this in holds up. I think it's a great mystery series. It's definitely not one of the best mystery series, and definitely not something like I think about often, but it holds up definitely. It was like great for like beginner mystery readers, and it, like Cam is like such a good character. She's like a young Nancy Drew. Oh, then we have Rescue Princesses. I was literally obsessed with this series when I was younger, but only with a few of the books, which I think is an issue with a lot of like book series that have like a lot of books with different characters narrating each one. Like I liked some of the characters a lot and some of their books, and then other characters like I despised, so it's kind of like a mixed bag. But overall the story was pretty good, so I'm gonna put this in holds up as well. I don't think it was one of my favorites, but when I was reading it, like at that time, I loved it a lot. But I kind of like, I can remember back then, I kind of like found myself reading one book and then putting the series down. I was like, okay, I'm done with the series, and then picking up another one because my friends were all reading it, and it was kind of like that, more of like a social thing than actually enjoying the book. Oh, then we have the American Girl series, and if you haven't read this series, basically every American Girl doll has like their book series where they like, the first one is Meet like Kit, and then the second book is like, oh, this is her life, and then the third one, like it's like a whole series about each of the dolls. And I've read I think almost all of the dolls series probably, and if I have to think about it, I think my favorite one would probably be Addie, or the one that was about the War of 1812. This one's Kirsten. Her story was pretty good too. I'm gonna put this in nostalgic just because there were so many dolls and every one of their stories was so good. Molly, Felicity, Kit, I can't even remember all of them. There were like so many. Julie, like some of them were more recent and some of them were older, and the series was so nostalgic. The movies as well, the dolls, like I literally had an American Girl doll, so it was like so fun, and the stories were always really good. Like it was a nice way to read about history without like getting bored as like a kid, so definitely nostalgic factor. Bad Kitty, oh, by Nick Bruhl. This is like a comic, like, it's not comic book, but like it has like a lot of illustrations inside the books. And I literally, when I first read the first book, there's so many of them, I thought this was the most brilliant thing I'd ever read, because Bad Kitty is literally, like, I have 3 cats and Bad Kitty is literally just like them, like the oldest one. It's so funny. It kind of gets redundant as the series goes on, but it's just so good. And like, Bad Kitty himself like goes through a lot of self-development during the series, which we always like to see. I'm gonna put this in nostalgic. I literally could read these now and still think they're hilarious. So it was so good. Oh, then we have Mrs. Pigglewiggle. I was obsessed with the books as a kid, like obsessed. I read every one. Mrs. Pigglewiggle's Magic, Mrs. Pigglewiggle's Farm, Mrs. Pigglewiggle's, her upside down house. I wanted an upside down house. But literally, I think I was reading like some like reviews, like someone wrote a blog post about this series, about how like it's really outdated and like the things that happen. And like, now that I think about it, Miss Pigglewiggle, literally her like cures and remedies were like, would not be tolerated now, like at all. Like, she was like a little bit crazy for that. So I'm gonna put this in would not enjoy now, because I just know that I would be horrified by everything I read. But I do not wish I could erase it, because they were just kind of like so fun to read as a child. But like, there was some crazy stuff happening. Mrs. Pigglewiggle was a little bit suspicious now that I think about it, but that's okay. It's okay. It was like a good childhood series, but don't think that it's gonna cure your child into anything if you want them to read it. Little House on the Prairie, another one where I think if I read it now, I would be like, how did I not pick up on that as a child? And I feel like a lot of stuff is outdated, but this series was like everything for me as a child. Like the whole series, like them growing up until like she gets married, she has her kid at the last book. Like, I literally loved this series so much. I watched the TV series. So I'm gonna put this in nostalgic, just because no, I don't think it holds up, but to me it does, and it's really nostalgic. Like, I would love, like, it doesn't hold up to like the cultural aspects right now, because like there's a lot of stuff that happens in the books that is a little bit iffy, but if I read it again, I just know that I'm gonna get like pulled into the story. They're living on the prairie, like the life is so different. Like, yeah, it's just such a good series. I loved it so much, but I just know that if I read it now, there are gonna be some things that I would pick up on, but I still think it's such a great series. Percy Jackson, oh, 5-star always. Like, I mean, I think it's kind of unfair considering Percy Jackson I read a little bit older than my childhood, more like middle school age, and these are more like elementary, early middle school age. But like, no questions asked, 5-star always. Literally the highlight of like my older childhood. And then afterwards, like, I started reading Heroes of Olympus and all of that. But Percy Jackson always sticks out to me. Like, everything, it's just no need to explain, honestly. A to Z Mysteries. Ron Roy, if you have a kid and you want them to get into reading, Ron Roy is the perfect author, especially if they're into mysteries. He has A to Z Mysteries, Calendar Mysteries, National Mysteries, I'm not sure what it's called. Everything he writes is just amazing. I think I said Calendar Mysteries. And this is the A to Z Mysteries, the OG. It's gonna go into a 5 stars always, because the series was just so good. The characters were amazing, the way they solved the mysteries were amazing. Each character had like their own distinct personality. I loved like the A to Z part of it, like because there were literally 26 books, and then there were all of the books afterwards too, like this one's the Detective Camp, which is like a special edition. I actually have it, and each book is so good. The mysteries are so good, none of it got boring, and I honestly think it was better than like other it was the best mystery series that I read when I was a kid, including the Calendar Mysteries and the National Mysteries, but this one was my favorite. Then we have the Boxcar Children. I know that there's like a whole fandom behind this series and that everyone loved it as a child. I honestly didn't understand it. Like, I like, out of like all the book series I read as a child, this one stands out to me as the one I didn't like. So I'm gonna put it in would not enjoy now, because I didn't enjoy it then either. I think I have the box set for like the first 5 books, and I think I've read maybe like 10-15 of them. I know like in the library, I can picture this section in my mind where it was just all the red Boxcar Children books like all the way down the shelf. But like, it just, I didn't like it, honestly. It just, even as a child, like, knowing that, like, I had a good imagination, it just seemed too unrealistic to me. And I didn't like the characters that much, or like, I didn't think it was that fun to read, so I'm just gonna put it in would not enjoy now. I'm not sure why I didn't like it though. Geronimo Stilton. I think this exceeds nostalgic, honestly. When I think to my childhood about some of those defining series that like I read every single book of and I loved, it's gonna be Geronimo Stilton. Like, I know if I read it now, I would literally be dying of laughter. Like, it was so good. Thea Stilton too. Like, Thea Stilton was probably even better, but Geronimo Stilton was the OG, so that's what I have here. Literally such a good series, and the way it was written, like, it was like with the little images and the text, you know what I mean if you've read it, like how the text is like different colors. It was so good. A 5 stars always, like even a level above nostalgic for Geronimo Stilton. Junie B. Jones, I'm honestly gonna say it, I don't think it should have been banned, like, because no book should be banned, but even as a child, I was kind of like a tame child. Like, I was like not very like I was just tame. I was like a chill child. I thought Junie B was a little bit extra. Like, I was like, I'm gonna put in will not enjoy now, because I read the books. I was kind of addicted to them, honestly. Like, I kept reading them, but like only to like bash on Junie, honestly, because like I didn't like her, and I just, yeah, I think that was just me though, because I was kind of like the opposite of her personality. But I know a lot of people would have liked it, but I still don't think it should have gotten banned. But like, Junie was a little bit of a rash character, so I'm gonna put it would not enjoy now. Encyclopedia Brown, 5 star always. Encyclopedia is brilliant, and I was always just like in awe of him as a child. And I love the fact that you can read the mystery and then answer it yourself at the end, because even though I think I got it right once, I still loved to like be in that like sort of state of suspense where like I'm at the end, I don't know what happened, so Clypedia knows everything that happened, and then I go to the end and see his thought process. Like, that part, like, it literally labels out his entire thought process for you. It was just so amazing. Honestly, it made me better at mystery solving and stuff, so, and he's amazing. But now I think what they've done to the books is a little bit different, I'm not sure, but at the time it was so good. And his best friend Sally was like my role model. Narnia, a 5 star always, no questions asked. The books, the movies, everything. My favorite books are The Horse and His Boy and The Silver Chair, both of which are not about Peter, Susan, Lucy, and Edmund. I don't know if that's a correlation or a coincidence, but I did enjoy this series, but mostly the books that weren't about our 4 main characters. But I love this series. It's amazing. He's an amazing writer, and the last book made me cry. Like, if you know the ending, it's so good. A Series of Unfortunate Events. I'm gonna put this in nostalgic, just because a lot of it like made me really mad while reading it, just because like I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that some things just don't get solved. Like, that made me really mad, but I loved like the series as a whole. I've read the TV show, like I love all the characters, and I know that I enjoyed it a lot, except for the ending. But it was such a big part of my childhood, and I think I have reread some of the books, and I still love them. Like, it's such a unique story that I just think that it transcends, holds up. It's like better. It's just unique and special. But yeah, 10, 11-year-old me could not wrap my head around the fact that, you know, open endings do exist. The Littles, I'm gonna put this in holds up. I don't think it was anything special. Their tales really freaked me out as a kid, but I think the stories were pretty good, and I think it holds up. If you have like a young child or sibling, I think they should read it. It just wasn't anything special for me. It wasn't like a standout series for me as a kid. Warrior Cats also definitely holds up, and I know that so many people loved it, but this, again, like the Boxcar Children, just, I liked it, but I just didn't love it. Like, I didn't find myself picking up, like, I read the box set that I had, but I didn't have any interest in reading after that. I think what appealed to me was that I have cats and I loved reading about them, but I never like wanted to be like, I never like tried to find out which clan I was a part of or anything like that, like I did with Harry Potter, which is gonna come. But like, I wasn't obsessed with the fandom or anything like that, but I thought it was good, and I think it holds up. Amelia Bedelia, a 5-star always. Like, Amelia Bedelia is like one of those books where it's literally crazy, like, but like it's so good, it works out in the end. She's like the best character that like wasn't a child that appealed to children. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was such a good series, and there were so many books, and I just loved it. I loved it so much. I still love it. I still think about specific scenes that I love. That's how you know when like the book was actually so good. And I got the like one of the special editions for my birthday when I was like 10 or 11. Harry Potter, 5-star always. Not even the book series. I think I've talked about it before, but I kind of like the movies better than the books actually. But the fandom that comes behind the series is inescapable. I was like fully submerged. I had group chats like named after like the other Harry Potter theme, where me and my friends would just talk about Harry Potter stuff. We would send each other Harry Potter videos, Harry Potter memes. We would send each other quizzes, like Harry Potter quizzes. We would take quizzes. We would talk about Harry Potter all the time. Each of us was like one character. Like we had our own character that we were like similar to. The fandom is what makes this a 5-star. Like it was such a big part of my childhood. Like I can't even believe it. Like, it's crazy how one book series can have such an impact on someone's life. Like, imagine like writing a series where it's just mind-boggling to me. Okay, Rainbow Magic. It's hard to rate this one just because they're like 100 books, and I've read every single one of the books, every single Rainbow Magic book, except the ones that have been released since I got older. I'm not even sure if they're releasing them now. I'm gonna put this in holds up, or nostalgia. I'm gonna put this in holds up because I love them, but I also, at the same time, even as a child, I didn't really like the main characters. I thought they were a little bit naive and like kind of annoying, honestly. I kind of was only reading it for Jack Frost because I loved him as a child. Like, he was the villain, but I still thought he was the best character. And I did like some of the fairies. Like, they have like different categories of fairies, like the pet fairies, the color fairies, like there's so many, like I can't remember, the holiday fairies, and like there were specific groups of fairies, like the theme that I really liked, and those books were like my favorites. But I think it holds up, and the fact that it has so many books means that you can just keep reading them, which is great. But it definitely wasn't one of my favorite series. Tales of Fourth Grade Nothing, the Fudge series by Judy Blume, a 5 nostalgic. Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, the first book, is one of my favorite books of all time. The rest of the series is more of like a 4-star maybe, but am I reading just the first book or the series? If I'm rating it as a series as a whole, I'm gonna put it in nostalgic. I don't think the rest of the books hold up to the first book, which is amazing, but the series as a whole, nostalgic, is so good. Sheila, Peter, Fudge, literally the best characters. It was so funny, and Peter was like I was obsessed with him as a child because I have a younger sibling too, and he was just so relatable, and I felt so bad for him, but it was so fun. And Sheila too, she was such a good character. Fudge, it was like such a great series. Nancy Drew and the Clue Crew. This is not the original Nancy Drew series, which I've also read every single book of, but the original series I read when I was a little bit older, and I think that was the right choice because crazy stuff happens in those books. But this is like the younger series. I've also read every book of this series, and after reading the original series, I think it holds up as like a precursor to the Nancy Drew series, or not even as a precursor, just as a series. Like, I don't think it should be related to the actual series. It's nowhere similar at all. It's mostly like mysteries that take place at their school. I think it's like similar to Cam Jansen in the way that it's good for young readers, but don't read this thinking it's going to be like the original series, because it's not. But I think it holds up. It just is nowhere near the original series. Famous Five, Enid Blyton, also such a good series from my childhood. I'm gonna put it in nostalgic, but like, because when I was reading as a child, the amount of autonomy that these characters had was insane to me. Like, they were going on adventures left and right. Where were the parents? Non-existent. They were going and staying on an island where there were like kidnappers. It was like crazy. There were so many books. I know which ones are my favorite, but they were all so good. The characters were great, honestly, in my opinion. I know a lot of stuff in the books like wouldn't hold up now, as is with these like older series, but when I was reading it as a child, I loved it, and the mysteries were like way more advanced. Like the adventures and stuff were way more advanced than anything I had read, so it was such a good read. But there were, even as a child, I was like, okay, this is a little unrealistic. So that's why it's going to be nostalgic, because even as a child, I was like, okay, some things here, like, it's a little unrealistic, but I still enjoy it so much. Land of Stories, Chris Colfer. I'm going to put this in nostalgic, because the book series itself gave me nostalgia as a child, because it's about books. Like, let me think about, okay, so besides your normal fairy tale characters, they literally, in the fourth book, I believe, the Wizard of Oz, Robin Hood, Peter Pan, King Arthur, like all of those characters are also in the series, and it was just so good. And I love the progression, like how they get older and like they're like developing and growing. It's such a nostalgic series for me. I loved it so much. It wasn't as like it didn't stand out as much as some of the other books did, but it definitely was like an important part. And if I read it now, I'm sure I would enjoy it. But I mostly loved the relationship with like how we were seeing other fairy tale characters. That was my favorite part. Wayside Stories. Oh, I literally was like looking through my list yesterday, and I saw this on my list, and I was like, I literally haven't like thought about this book in so long, but it was the most insane. I think everyone should read this, whether you're a child or not. It's literally the most imaginative and unique book I've ever read. I don't even know where to put it on this tier list, because I'm just gonna put it in nostalgic, honestly, because the stories in here were so crazy and like weird and insane that I can to this day remember some of the stories that I read where I was like, what just happened? It was like, I love how they were like little, like all the books had like a bunch of different stories in them, and it's mostly like not about the characters, just about like the weird stuff that's happening at the school. I don't even know how to rate it or how to explain it. It's just going in nostalgic, because I can still remember pivotal scenes from the books that I'm still thinking like, what even happened? Ramona Quimby. Oh, I'm gonna put this in holds up. I think I didn't like this series as much as I did other series, like, and as much as other kids my age did, but I still think it holds up, and it's memorable. Like, it's a great series, especially if you have an 8-year-old kid, or if you're around that age. Ramona's such a relatable character. It just wasn't one of my favorite series as a child, but I definitely think it holds up. Magic Tree House, 5-star always. The amount of stuff, not even the stories, which were so entertaining, the amount of stuff I learned from this series. I took US history last year, and the amount of stuff that I learned from Magic Tree House that was applicable was like insane. And not to mention, the book series is just so good. Like, it's just, regardless of the educational stuff, it's so good. And the fact that you're learning so much too, 5 stars. Like, I mean, it's an amazing series, and there's so many books. I think everyone's like as young should be reading it. Betsy Tacy. Oh, I'm gonna put this in holds up. I liked the series, but I honestly didn't. Okay, so if you haven't read the series, it becomes Betsy Tacy Tib in like the 3rd or 4th book, I believe. I didn't like Tib that much, so honestly Betsy Tacy, the originals, were my favorite. And I also thought the series got less fun when they got older, because as a child I wanted to read about their childhood, not about them getting married, them having kids, and all of that. So I think if I read it now, maybe I'd enjoy it more, but as a child, it was honestly just the first couple of books that I liked, and then I kind of was like, okay. But I think it would hold up if I were to read it again. All of a Kind Family. Oh, this is, what did I do? This is going in nostalgic for sure. This series was like such, like, it's probably one of, when I think back, one of the earliest books I ever read. I wanted 5 siblings, like, after reading this book. It was just so good. I can remember everything about the book. I've reread it so many times. I think I do like an annual or semi-annual reread of it. Like, it's such a good series, and the first book will always be the best, but every single book in the series is so good. Definitely nostalgic. The Mouse and the Motorcycle. Oh, this was a good series too. I'm gonna put this in nostalgic. I loved the series so much. There were only a few books, I think even just 3 maybe, but I was always checking to see if there were going to be more, and it was just so unique because it was written by a mouse who drives a motorcycle, and I think the uniqueness was just what made it stand out to me, and I loved it so much. Sophie Mouse, another mouse book. I'm gonna put this in holds up. It definitely wasn't my favorite series as a child, and the reason I read it was because her mom owns a bakery, and the stuff she made in the bakery was like otherworldly. Like the desserts sounded so good. That was mostly the reason why I was reading it. I didn't like the characters that much. I liked her friend. I think her name is Hallie. I liked her friend the best, and it wasn't really like a big part of my childhood. I think I started reading it a little bit later on, but I did love the series, and I would love, like, I probably would read it again and love it too. Mostly the desserts part of it, but okay, so that's my tier ranking. As I said in the disclaimer, none of the books went in the last tier. Most of them were nostalgic, as probably expected. But I mean, reminiscing about these books just brings me back. I want to read them all again. If you guys have any other suggestions for videos I should do, or books that I should review, just let me know down below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I post new videos every week. Thank you. Bye.